inspired by a 40-plus-year-old brown mom in social media. Nobody was out there doing it.
One of the things that I really like about social media is an ability to learn that you're not the only one going through something.
If you are lost, keep trying new things.
Yeah.
You just never know what you might end up with.
Every experience is one giant experiment. And the constant that you can always bet on is being yourself. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Happy and Human podcast. I'm your co-host, Seema Desai, and I've got Dinesh with me. Hello, how are you?
Hey, Seema, I am great. How are you today?
I'm excited because we've got another awesome guest on the show, and I can't wait to have this conversation with her. I have to just share this with the listeners. I was at the Texas Conference for Women yesterday, and I'm just buzzing with all the positive energy and the passion and the purpose and the vision for a greater future that we have collectively. And so I'm sharing it with you because I want to share that with our listeners. And I want you guys to just tap into that energy too, so you can be the best version of you.
I love it. I love it. I mean, anything that lights us up is going to transfer to the people around us. So definitely let's keep sharing those. So we've got with us someone really special, someone that is, a trend herself that we were talking about in the pre-show. She's definitely someone that we have followed for a while on social media and is just an all-around inspiration. Seema, who do we have with us?
We have with us Preeti Gandhi. I'm so excited about this because Dinesh, you've admitted that you've stalked Preeti on Instagram, and I am going to go ahead and just publicly say I'm a huge fan. Everything she does is just so inspirational, so authentic. Preeti coaches midlife women to reinvent their health with home workouts and simple, sustainable nutrition, which is such a big key, right? So much more than just working out. And you know what? Her recipes are delicious. They're simple. I love them because as a vegetarian and sometimes a vegan, depending on where I'm at, what I'm feeling like, protein is something that I have to be mindful of. And she really does make sure to talk about protein intake with her recipes. And so she's based in Philadelphia. She's also a wife. She's also a mom, and she's an all-around inspiration for women to love their bodies so that they can show up as their best selves for the people and the things that they care about. So Preeti, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to speak to all of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you here.
You stalked Dinesh too, right? Like make him feel good.
Definitely. We're in that 5 a.m. club together.
We're in the 5 a.m. club. We're doing K-Mac together. And you know what, Preeti, I'll tell you, we just had Diwali, right? Diwali just passed a little bit ago.
Yes.
And whenever, we eat dinner or lunch and I'm reaching for some mithai or something sweet, and, we're trying to be healthy. We're trying to limit our sugar intake. And I look at my wife and I'm like, what? So Preeti says, kuch mita ho jaye. And I'm like, it's okay. It's totally fine. And that's what you say that, right, on your stories. And I'm like, oh, look, Preeti says it's fine, so we should do something.
It's perfectly fine. Everything in moderation is fine. You got to enjoy life.
I just want to give a flavor to the listeners of what some of the questions that came in when we were promoting this episode. And I think, maybe we don't need to answer the questions right now, but this just gives a flavor of what Preeti brings to the world and to all of us, what her gifts are, right? First comment was, and I'll only read a couple of them. First one is like, no questions, really do enjoy your content. So content's great. Here's a great question. Where does she get her energy from? So, I mean, that question tells you that Preeti shows up with a ton of energy. And this one struck me a lot. She's so brave, need her secrets, right? So we'll get into all of that. Seema, I know we've got a little bit of a structure here, so you want to take it away?
I do. But when you said the brave comment, I literally got chills. Like, so good. Yeah. So good. So on that, Preeti, how did you get to be so brave? Tell us, how did you land in this space? Because you said you had a corporate job before. Tell us all about, what it is, because I'm sure that growing up, your parents did not present this fitness and nutrition coaching thing as a viable option for a good Indian girl.
Not at all, not at all. I came to the US like almost 30 years ago to do my undergrad. I did my undergrad, got a good job, got married. You know, you have everything that cookie cutter life that your parents would want you to have. And things were great. Things were great. But there was always something that was missing, I felt. You know, there's something missing in my heart. And I was going through a really low phase in my life. You know, after having kids, actually, you don't even realize um, the depression you go through. Everybody said it's just going to go away with time, but I feel like it never goes away. You just package it in some compartment in your brain and put it away and do not address it. But as I approached 40, and just my actions and, you know, those subtle unconscious decisions you're making that were not great for you started to show up in my life. And I was like, what the heck am I doing? I literally reached a point where I didn't think I could even make it through a day. I did consider committing suicide at that point many, many times. But I have to tell you, my husband has been my rock. He's always listened to me and, you know, always like coach me through he's very practical. So he's like coach me through these moments where, you know, I'm feeling really low. My circle of friends weren't serving me. Just a lot of things that weren't serving me. And, just like social media was out there on Facebook, I saw this lady who would show up every single day in the morning with that big smile. She had worked out and she looked great. And she was a homeroom mom I had met in Nikita's second grade. And I reached out to her. I'm like, what the heck are you doing? You look so happy and you're in great shape. What are you doing? And she's like, oh, I'm doing these home workouts. You should come try it with me. I'm a Beachbody coach. Maybe you should join me and see what it is. And I was like, no, thanks. I don't want to do it. It's too much work. Getting up in the morning and doing it, forget it. And long story short, my father-in-law passed away suddenly. Karthik had to go to India. We had 2 feet of snow. I ended up with the flu. I was in the worst condition physically. And I was like, how am I going to take care of 2 kids and take my dog out for a walk in this winter storm? And that's when I decided I got to take control of my health. Like literally, that's how it started. And I reached out to this lady. I said, I don't even know what you want me to do. Just sign me up. She's like, oh, you have to drink a shake and you have to do this and follow a meal plan. I was like, screw it, whatever it is, I will do it because I need to get on with the program. And I cannot take care of my kids in this condition. And you have no help here. Like my parents don't live here. His parents didn't live here. So everything is on you pretty much. And that's what I did. I would wake up in the morning. I would get a workout in 30 minutes, get ready, go to work. And I just did this on repeat, not even thinking about it. And I didn't focus on the weight loss or anything. I was just like, I was feeling good. And believe it or not, after 1 month, I saw obviously weight loss, felt good. She said, what's the next thing you want to do? I'm like, P90X, bring it on.
Wow.
So I did P90X, and I tell you, Tony Horton is a trainer who will walk you through that whole process, and he's amazing. And he literally washes your brainwashes you into believing you can do anything. Yeah. And you know, I couldn't even do a pull-up, I couldn't even do a push-up, but I did that consistently with modifications. Sure. Got amazing results, but I did it. It just changed that mental switch in my head. Like I can do anything I want to. Yeah. And literally my coach was like, you got to keep sharing this you have to create a page, share it. There are going to be so many women who are going to be inspired. I'm like, who's going to be inspired by a 40-plus-year-old brown mom in social media? Nobody was out there doing it. I was like, nobody's going to be inspired. She's like, try it. And she kept pursuing me for months. And I said, no, because that's what Beachbody does. Like if you're successful, you become a coach and you bring other people in. Coach them. I'm still a Beachbody coach. I love it because it works. It works. It's simple, easy to do. Not easy, but it's doable. And you have a community. Yeah, it's basically keeping it simple. So that's how I became a coach. And that's how I started sharing my journey. And that was like 7 years ago. And I'm still here sharing it. And the whole point was being authentic, no filters, no BS. Give it as it is, the good days and the bad days. Yeah. And people will follow you. People will relate to you. And I think that's where, you know, I connect with a lot of my audiences because it's relatable and it's simple. The way I make it fun, that don't have to be intimidated by this lifestyle. It's doable for a working mom or a stay-at-home mom at any age. You can start.
Mm.
That's my story.
So good. Just start. Just start.
Yeah.
Just start. Just start.
Yeah. 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 So good. I resonate with that deeply as someone who also experienced depression after having my first kiddo. And it was interesting to that whole journey. I think there's so many similarities that that come up and also differences. And, you know, I think that I'm so glad that you shared that part of your life with everybody, because I think it happens more than we realize. So
it happens a lot more. And back in our days, I sound, I'm dating myself, but back then, like 20 years ago, nobody spoke about these things. There was no social media. There was nobody voicing these things. And now a lot of the women my age group or who had kids 20 years ago are going to be like, yeah, we did go through this. Nobody said anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Particularly in our culture, right?
Yeah. Oh, forget it. Nobody understood where we were coming from.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Well, one of the things that I really like about social media is an ability to recognize or to learn that you're not the only one going through something. And I think that is so powerful and so motivating that it even crosses lines that where you think that, you know, it may not reach, right? So I'll give you a concrete example. My right shoulder has been aching for the last 9 months. And on your stories one day, you posted, I think you were doing a overhead press and you were struggling with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, hey, I bet her shoulder hurts the same way my shoulder hurts,
Yeah.
right? And as you know, and I've been working out and I'm a certified coach and I've got all these different tools at my disposal. But you never know when something that you see in someone else leads you to decide in that moment of insight that, okay, I need to address this. I just can't live with this any longer.
Yeah.
And so, to be perfectly honest, I called my doctor. I'm 6 weeks into medication and treatment for my shoulder.
Okay.
And it's almost 100% better.
Wow.
Right. And then you look back and like, okay, for 9 months, I kept saying, I told K-Mac like multiple times that I can't do bench press. My shoulder hurts. He's like, go get an MRI, go do this, go do that, go see physical therapist. I went to physical therapy, but I kind of just said, I'm going to live with it for a while because it's not going away. And then the one thing you shared, which you weren't sharing it for me, right? You weren't sharing it for an audience of Indian men.
You're just stalking me, Dinesh.
Yeah.
Again, he's just jealous of your hair.
Yes.
He's just jealous of your hair.
How else do we get guests on the podcast? We've got to get to know them and make sure that they are going to bring all the fire for our guests, for our audience. Yeah.
Why is it that the simplest things we make complicated? Like, just start. But there's all these stories in our head about why, like, not me, and why them, but not like I can't. Like, why is that?
I think, by nature, humans, it's that perfection mindset. I know at least it was for me. Like, even now when I put content out, sometimes I'm like, oh, it's not perfect. But then I'm like, just screw it. I'm just going to put it. And the funniest thing is the content that is the most raw and real does so much better.
Yeah.
Than the ones I actually put in a lot of effort in, which is true, right? So I think it's just our nature, and I think it's also our upbringing as Indians, right? Because growing up, your parents are always like, "Oh, be a good girl," or "Do this good." Everything has to be good. That good has been attached to everything, so it's like a mindset that you develop growing up, and that's one thing I've tried my best to do with my girls is like. Appreciate them for their actions versus like always being like you have to be good or you have to be a certain way in order to get my appreciation for things. And I want them to fail because that's how they're going to learn. If everything is perfect, they're never going to learn. And I think they watch that, they've seen me do that. I'm never going to hold their hand and make them cross the road. I'm going to be like, try it first.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Can you get to the point where you're falling short and your quote unquote failures are equally celebrated?
Absolutely.
As your successes, because I mean, like that happened this week too. My son had an experience and it felt so amazing to watch him sort of get back up from that setback and be like, yeah, like, cool, that's how I'm better this week. It's because I fell.
Yeah. 100%.
What do you say? What do you say, or how did you address it in your mind that now is not the right time? Like, I know I should do this. I know how to start. I have it in me. But maybe in a couple of years when, kids are older, life will be easier. Or maybe this will line up for me and I'll start that. And it could relate to fitness or anything else that you're doing. How do you address that? Like, now is not the right time later on.
So I've always had that, like, oh, now is not the right time. Like when my coach approached me, I was like, I don't think I have the time. I don't have the capacity. She's like, why don't you just start? So after like a lot of like thinking about that, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to try with one person. Like anything I want to try. I'm just always like, I'm going to try it one time and see if it works out or not, and how do I feel about it? And that's how I went. I was like, I'm going to try with one client. I'm going to give it a shot and see if I can make a difference for one person. Do I have time? And just the feedback you get by helping someone else, by being of service to someone, it is far, far like bigger than you getting a result. Like if somebody said, I lost, like me losing so much weight, fine, what's the big deal? That's the way I look at it. But if someone else lost weight because I showed her how to do it, that is more rewarding than anything. And I think that's the feeling I chase, is the feeling of, how do I make someone else feel better about themselves? Ultimately, that is what we all, I think, feel good about, is when we have our purpose and when we get to serve someone. And it's not just serving your family or, your friends, or that's a different kind of service. I feel like that's duty.
Yeah.
But going out of your way to serve someone is just a different level of happiness for yourself and for the other person. It's really different.
Yeah. Well, we get fragmented by the idea of me, I, mine. And we're so connected on a deeply energetic level. We are all so connected. So of course you're going to feel that much more fulfillment when you help someone in that way. Right. And I love how you said, I'm going to show them how to do it. Right. So you're not taking their agency away, and you're not taking their responsibility away. Like, you're not doing it for them.
Right.
You're just being that scaffolding so that they can have the strength to do it themselves.
Exactly.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, Preeti, when you were speaking, you reminded me of one of my favorite quotes by Pablo Picasso. I'm sure you've heard it. If not, it's, the meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of life is to give it away.
Yes. I've heard that.
Forgot about that one. Yeah.
Do you need to go through some sort of, I'll say, setback or challenge to find your gift, or is you think that the listeners or anyone can find their gift proactively through insight or guidance and tap into that? Because you mentioned earlier some challenges that you went through, and some setbacks in various aspects, professional, personal areas of life, that led you to releasing your full self, right?
Totally.
Wonder, one of the questions that's always in my mind is, do we have to go through that? Do we almost have to get thrown off that first mountain, right, to be able to climb the second mountain? Or can we say, you know what? No, my gift is this, and I want to release it or create a gift, however you want to phrase that.
Totally. And I don't think you always have to go through a low moment to find your gift, but chances are you might find your gift when you hit your lowest. A lot of people do, because if you have that, a little bit of hope in yourself, that you want to feel good about yourself, you're going to figure out a way to do something out of the box that you probably never even considered. Like for me, workouts, fitness was never my thing. I absolutely despised going to the gym or lifting a weight or doing anything purely. I never even did it in my childhood, like never. I skipped PE class. So for me to find this as a gift was it was hard to even believe that I actually ended up in this space. So you might be surprised that you end up finding a gift that you didn't even know you had till you tried something new. So I always try something new. I always tell my friends who are in this midlife situation, who have never done anything but taken care of their kids, go try something new, find a new hobby. You never know, you might find your gift, or tap into your inner child. There might be something that you never got to pursue as that you always wanted as a child. That's something you can go and try. Like for me, it was fashion. I love fashion. Always wanted to do it. My mom had told me, no, you won't make money. It's not something good girls from families do that. You should just get an education, get married, have kids. That was the ultimatum. Like, no, don't do it. Basically, that's what I was told. And here we are. So if you watch me in my stories sharing, this is what I'm wearing, this is how I feel, and I'll sometimes do reels about it because it's something I always loved. That's my other passion. So I try and mix and match my passions in my content and share that. But yeah, you never know. You just never know where and how you find your purpose. But you have to, one thing is, if you are lost, keep trying new things. You just never know what you might end up with.
And I would even add to that and say, like, not necessarily that you need to get thrown off a mountain, but
no.
Preeti, when you were sharing kind of like, I never worked out as a kid, I didn't seek that out. It reminded me when I was 25, my next door neighbor, we had bought our first house and we were kind of getting to know the neighbors. And the next door neighbor said to me, she mentioned that she had a life coach. And I, in my infinite 25 years of, so much wisdom, told Manish, I told my husband, I was like, how bad do you have to be at living life that you need freaking a coach? Like what? And it's so funny because here I am, like doing the very thing that I completely balked at. So the reason I say that is it's not that you have to even necessarily get thrown off a mountain, but examine what your repulsions are. Like examine what it is that's making you go, no, because that very thing might just be your gift, like your invitation to that next greatest thing for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, so good. And I think the advice you gave about trying something, and Seema's heard me say this before, I tried having lunch with Seema one day in Austin, Texas, and I had no idea it would lead to a podcast that we both very much enjoy. And even we meet on the podcast and we talk about the podcast thing, but even unrelated to the podcast, we were texting this morning. I was sending her pictures of my son and me at the game and things like that. So a friendship has developed, and that's what I went into it with, right? Get a friendship, a colleague, but you never know where it might come from. And it all starts with the hope that you will find something, that polarity, that there is a possibility for you to find something, and then it's trusting yourself enough to try it.
Absolutely.
Right. And not relying or not demanding from yourself that you know where it ends. Like you can see the path, right? And I think Preeti, you one more point. Preeti, you exemplify this so well in that path you can construct or develop a whole new identity. Because when you tell me that I never lifted a weight, I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. You are Preeti Gandhi. You are the person who's the workout queen on Instagram, right? Yeah. And here you are telling me that wasn't me like 3 years ago.
I mean, growing up, I never ever did anything. I was like, not my thing.
Yeah.
This is like completely mind blowing when somebody, even when my childhood friends reach out, they're like, how are you into fitness? Like you never even played any sports or did anything. I was like, yeah, I know. I was more like into dance or like fashion or this typical girly stuff, but no, fitness, never my thing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And now you walked at New York Fashion Week, right?
Yes. I got that opportunity in the summer, and when someone reached out to me, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, no, I can't do this. I was in India. I was like, no, I'll get back to you. I came back, I completely forgot about it. And she still was insistent. She's like, you need to try this. I think you'll do good. And I was like, I have no experience. I don't even know how to walk. I can walk, but I can't walk on the ramp. So I used to make funny videos and I'd send videos of me practicing to my girls, and they're like, Mom, you look like you're walking in Costco. Like, come on, this is not how you walk. And they'd send me YouTube TikToks and all. I'm like, girl, I don't know what I'm doing. I got my heels 3 days before the show. I was like, I'm just gonna do it and see what the heck happens. I just went and I was myself, I guess, and it was a great experience. Like those 2 days were, yeah, it was crazy.
What came to mind for me as you said that was every experience is one giant experiment. And the constant that you can always bet on is being yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the element that's going to be able to heavily determine the success of a venture, but also like make it very clear as to why something fell short if it did, if you're authentic in yourself. And I love that you always say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
So I have a question, because a lot of what you talk about is not only just working out, but so much of it is nutrition. And especially as like South Asians, especially as overachieving professionals, there are a different set of circumstances that we encounter when we talk about nutrition. So why, what would you say to someone who's like, why hire someone to help me do this? I mean, I can just look up recipes and work out on my own. Like why, what does this offer working with anyone like that?
So first of all, you need to ask yourself, have you been consistent with what you plan to eat? A lot of women are not. We all can look up recipes. We all can, follow someone else's meal plan that's put out there. But is it actually designed for you? And what you get when you work with me, or any nutritionist for that matter, is you get structure, you get accountability, which adults need accountability, just like your kids need a math teacher to follow up with them and make sure they're practicing their math and, getting good at it. It's the same thing. That's why you hire a coach for your fitness or for your nutrition. That's what you get out of it. And you learn how to eat for your goals, for your body. And, there could be certain foods depending on your health conditions, what's working, for your health. Maybe you have diabetes or, heart conditions or cholesterol's high. You have to eat certain foods differently. So it's important that you hire a nutritionist to do that. And my number one thing, if you see me talk about, is how you plan and how you prep going into the week. When you have a plan and you are prepared, chances are you are going to hit those goals that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are some prep tips?
Prep tip is figure out what your proteins are, what your veggies are for the week, your healthy carbs, the non-processed kinds, and definitely healthy fats. These are the things you need to focus on. And I always tell my clients, pick 3 proteins, pick 3 or 4 veggies, and bring a variety into your diet. They should be high in fiber. Don't tell me you're going to have dahi with every meal and that's your protein. Like, no, girlfriend, that's not going to work. You need something that's high in fiber so that you feel full. Like, think about it. If you're going to eat, say, a bowl of tempeh versus a bowl of yogurt, what's going to keep you fuller?
Right.
Obviously, the tempeh. So, you have to experiment. You can't keep doing the things that you've always done because it's obviously not working. If it's working, stick with it. But if it's not, it's time to change. Things happen only if you decide to make a change in your life.
How do you work, or how do you advise to people that want to make the change, but they just can't imagine adding the additional work of prepping meals for themselves? Because like so many parents, from yesterday, I woke up in the morning and Anjana had made bread pizza for the kids for their lunch, and there were like 3 pieces left, and I was on the way out the door and I grabbed 2 and I ate them. Right.
Yeah.
And so many parents just eat what's left over on their kids' plates. And the idea of now cooking a separate meal for myself, not only is it a lot of work, but kind of feels that I'm being selfish about myself. Like, I have to do this for me now. How do you advise people through that?
So if there's one thing I want anybody to try is, well, there are 2 things. Number 1, have a plan with your protein. Prep that. That's the only thing I say. Like, even on busy weekends, just prep your protein, have it ready to go, because you can add it to any meal. It is so easy to do that. All right.
That's
You
a
can
great
always
tip.
add a salad for your veggies. So that's covered. So you kind of get those two food groups, which are primarily going to keep you full. But the one meal I want you to focus on is having a good breakfast. Like if you start your day with a good breakfast, a high fiber, high protein breakfast, like any 30 to 40 grams of protein in that first meal, you are going to feel full. You're going to feel good. And you know, that energy is going to continue with you through the day. Don't wait to the end of the day to eat a lot. Like your last meal should technically be your smallest meal. So that's one advice I definitely give somebody. Yeah.
That's so good.
I think for us, desis, like the nasto and the carb heavy fried stuff is just such a, it's not a staple in my house, but when it's in my house, I totally I'm not thinking about protein. I'm thinking about the gatia. I'm thinking about the bear. I'm thinking about the, the tiki puri that my mother-in-law makes. It's like, it's just.
I hear you. I hear you.
So what are some good protein options for those busy mornings?
So definitely a shake is the easiest thing I tell my clients you can do is get used to having a shake. You could do yogurt. You could do like scrambled tofu. You also get these ready-made like nuggets at your grocery store if you choose to do it. I mean, it is a little process, but sometimes when you're running out of the door, it's not a bad thing. Like, the Morning Star or the Quoron, I think that's what they're called. They're high in protein. If you do one serving of that, because they're already flavored, seasoned, just add it to whatever you're having. If you would like something salty, those are some great options.
Yeah.
That's good.
You mentioned about meal prep and that doing the protein ahead of time is easy once you add it, right? And I want to go back and talk a little bit about how it became easy, right? Because I think a lot of people, especially for those who are new to something, might look at someone who's doing something else, say, oh, that they think it's easy, but my life is different and it's not easy for me, right?
Right.
And I'll give a quick story, and I know you'll relate to this. So I had bought a food scale like 5 years ago. And I could never use it. I could never bring myself to figuring out how to use the food scale or even like put the plate on it and zero it out and all that. And so it sat there and I would bring it out and I would go back and it was just there. And finally, when I started with KMAC, I was like, okay, I'm going to decide how to use a food scale. And I can tell you, if any meal I eat at home now, it automatically gets weighed. Right? The plate just goes on, it gets zeroed out, the food goes on. And whether I stick to my meal plan or I don't, the food just gets weighed. It's just part of eating on a plate. And I realized something, and I think both of you will agree, that whether something easy or is hard is a judgment.
Absolutely.
And once you start to do something, that's honestly the point of where it's most likely going to be the hardest. And you're only going to get better. And then it will become to a point where it's easy. So when you started meal prepping, Preeti, right, was prepping your protein and adding it easy for you?
No, it was hard. It was overwhelming. I think 2 weeks in when I started doing this, I remember telling my coach, I'm like, this is too much work. I can't do this. And I don't know how long I'm going to stick with it. And she's like, well, you've done it for 2 weeks. Try it another week. And then, she's like, try it another week. And I remember the first time I meal prepped, it took me 5 hours. You think I had 5 hours to do this? Like, no, it was very discouraging to do this. But, and it wasn't like my coach taught me how to meal plan or meal prep. She just said, you just need to follow this nutrition and go figure it out. There was nothing out there, nothing vegetarian geared out there. I had to go figure it out for myself. That's why it took so long. And that's why I brought like a simpler solution for women that, like a lot of my clients are moms who have little kids under the age of 1, 2, and they do it. They find time to do it. They schedule that 1.5 hour on Sunday because that's what I promised them. 1.5 hours to max.
Yeah.
If you have to wash the dishes, I get my husband to wash the dishes, but 1.5 hours, you can achieve it. It's not impossible. And if you just want to do your proteins, you can do that in 30 minutes or less. Like, if you know what you're going to have. So it's just the chopping of the veggies and all, which again, you can cut it down if you want to do frozen or pre-cut. You buy it from the grocery store to cut it down drastically.
That's one thing I think that has made a huge difference for us is if we go to Costco, if Manish goes to Costco, um,
I hear you.
yeah, no, but what we will do is take those carrots, take that celery, take the broccoli, the kale, especially because that's one that can kind of lose its turgor pressure and sort of get wilted. We will prep all of that, like wash it, cut it up, dry it, like allow it to dry, and then put it in containers. And then like the kids are like, if they go for the pantry for crap, we're like, no, there's carrots, there's celery. You don't have to do anything, right? Like even for us, if I don't have time, quote unquote, there's no reason that I can't just open the flex drawer and choose the celery instead of the chips that are in the pantry, right? So it does make it easier.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's something I started with my kids when they were little. I was like, you can wash the strawberries, the blueberries, and, portion it out into containers. So it's like now ingrained in my girls, like they know how to put their carrots, cucumbers into containers and their fruits. Like that is already prepped Monday to Friday for school, even for them.
Yeah. And I would even say like having the right tools to do that.
Yeah.
Like, so Crate and Barrel has these little berry crates, and I know other companies have them, but ours are from Crate and Barrel. They were like $4. And having those berry crates to where your produce, those berries go bad very fast. And it helps you, like, if you bring home those strawberries and wash them, then you can pick out that bad one that would have ruined the whole bunch. And you've like dried everything and it's there and it's being stored properly so it lasts longer. Like, prep is a big part of it.
For anything in life, right?
Yeah.
Anything. I think food is just a way to show, like, if you prep for food, you're going to feel good. But I feel like anything in life that you go into, you have to prep for it. You can't go into giving a test without prepping, right? You have to prep. And then you follow through. Like it's all, there's so many life lessons you learn on this journey from fitness and nutrition that kind of transcends into your day-to-day habits.
Yeah.
Tell us two areas. I have a two-part question.
Okay.
Tell us about some setbacks that you've had and how you ensured that they weren't permanent stops, right, for you, because your journey has continued. And then after that, also talk about the unintended or unexpected benefits that has come from all the things that make up Preeti Gandhi today, right? Instagram, the meal prep, coming on the podcast, showing up the way you do. For example, specifically in my mind, I'm wondering, I see Karthik working out with you, right?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if he was working out before or because of your journey, he said, my wife is doing this, so I'm going to do this and spend time with her. So I don't know the answer. So I'm wondering, like, what are the other benefits that have come about by you just deciding and saying, this is a decision I'm going to make for myself.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, look how better everything is over here.
Yeah. So I would say my biggest setback, even since I started my journey, I've had many setbacks. I've tried to like build a team of coaches to promote this. They've been on board and then they kind of fizzed out at some point. So that was like a mental challenge for me that, oh my God, I'm putting in so much effort and it has not worked out the way I expected. So that was a big challenge for me. Another second challenge was last 2 years, I would say, ever since the pandemic happened, was my body started to change in spite of taking care of it for so many years. I was working out, I was eating healthy, everything was going great, but my body was changing. And I knew I was hitting perimenopause, or I was in perimenopause, but menopause was coming on because my body was just not working for me. And I would go to the doctors every 3 months. I'm the kind who will go see a doctor and make sure that I get checked out if something is going on. And they put me on pills and all that. Did not work out. So last year was when I really felt not only did the pills impact me mentally, physically, emotionally, my daughter was going to college. I completely felt I lost myself last year in spite of being this fitness person that everybody related with me. And I was still running my these challenge groups that I call. I still had clients. I was still supporting clients. I was still doing great in my business, which was like, ongoing because I'd built it for so long. It just keeps going on. But I think last year was the most difficult time of my life. And I was like, oh my God, this is the year I have to decide, do I want to even continue in this realm, or should I quit? I was literally considering quitting December. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to show up on social media. I don't want to fake it. I'm done. But I gave myself permission. I gave myself grace that, you've done so much for so many years, for 7 years. You can't just give it up. There are women watching you. And just because something got tough, you can't quit. Like, that's one thing I know is I'll never quit. I'll try something else, but I won't quit. And that's when I went in the market and I started looking. I was like, okay, I'm at a point where I need somebody to hold me accountable. Just like how you find a doctor when you're sick, I need somebody to hold me accountable, somebody to push me. And that's when I interviewed a lot of coaches, a lot of personal trainers, that I was like, who's going to help me? Because I knew fitness was the way I always felt good. It was like coming back home, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I joined Kmark. I was like, perfect. This is online. I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to meet somebody's timeline. It has to be on my time, what I want. And I just need somebody to help me focus. And was my goal. I was like, I'm done pouring for everybody. Like I was just empty. I was like, I need to start pouring inward.
Yeah.
And that's what I focused on. And then once I started to focus on me, guess what? The magic started to come back. I started to feel good about myself. My energy was changed. And I was like, why am I hiding that I have hit menopause? Like, there's so many women out there, again, like me. You can have 20-something-year-olds, again, talking about fitness and how great it is to get abs. But hey, let's show women the life that's possible in midlife and onwards. Life doesn't end. And I think that's my mission now, is to show women life does not end. So what if your kids left? Hey, you get to live life now. This is the second half of your life has started. You're done with those major responsibilities. I'm done raising kids, changing diapers, making food. It's my time. So that's why, and that's how I reinvented myself. So my word for this year was reinvent. This is going to be version 2.0 of Preeti. You've seen me, mom of little kids. You're going to see mom, not even mom. Forget the mom title. I am a midlife woman who is living life the way she wants. She's experimenting. She's trying new things and living it up. Yeah.
So good to give yourself permission to do that. And so at the end of every show, you segued into kind of a question I wanted to ask you. So maybe we ask our guests to like teach us something, right? You're an expert in so many things, but I think this is where the universe is sort of telling me to ask this question, because perimenopause and menopause have come up for the last few weeks in various areas of my life. So for the men who are out there, who are supporting either in a marital relationship or with their sisters or cousins or whatever, how can they support women who are going through this phase of life?
Mm-hmm.
What would you say in terms of their fitness and their nutrition and things like that?
So number one is, don't think they're crazy, because just like teenagers go through hormonal changes, so do we. All right. This age is insane. It's like, you don't even know how to deal with it. You go like through so many ups and downs that you don't even realize. So be compassionate, listen, empathy, like they're not going nuts, and ask them questions on how you can help them. Sometimes they just want somebody to listen to them. Sometimes they just want somebody to like, hey, let's go for a walk. Like for me and Karthik, it's like we work out. And yeah, he was the one who actually encouraged me to work out. He used to work out always, but he was the one who was like, maybe you need to start working out. And he would joke around with me like, oh, I think I can lift heavier than you. And then I'm like, oh, I'm going to show you how to lift heavier than you. And, stuff like that. But it's like our walks. You can choose to like say, hey, let's go for a walk. Become like a walking partner, a listening partner. I think women at this age, more than like, you can always figure out the fitness and nutrition part. I think it's somebody to listen, because we feel like it's like that emptiness starts to set in right now at this phase in life. And right now, my friends are more important than worrying about what my kids want, because my kids have it figured out. They don't need me all the time. So like my friend circle, the people I hang out with, the people I talk to, all that matters a lot. So yeah, just be empathetic, try to be understanding. And yes, their bodies are going to change. That is a given. But there is a way to work through it. But they have to decide to commit to it.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah, really good advice. I mean, I think the entire time you've been talking, I've been thinking about what an inspiration you are and how
Oh, wow.
much what you're doing is so needed and nothing that I've seen before. So part of our wrap up also is that, you know, we mentioned to you, we have this Ask It Forward segment or portion where the previous guest, without knowing who you were, left a question for you to ask on the show, and then we'll get a chance to ask our next guest without knowing who they are, right? So
Okay.
I don't know, it might be Jay Shetty, it might be The Rock, it might be someone else, so you get to ask them whatever you'd like. But the last guest asked you this question, which was one experience that was a loss that you'd like to see as a gain. And this was asked by Colby Sharma, who is an author, a resilience expert. So what's your answer?
So my biggest loss was losing a very close friendship, my best friend, when I turned 40. I think that was like the biggest heartbreak I've ever felt. Not even like a guy leaving me, but my girlfriend. And if she hadn't done that, I don't think I would be the Preeti you see today. Because I would have never ventured out looking for new friendships.
Yeah.
I would have never ventured out and reached out to my coach back then, because I always, you know, because when you live in this Indian community, you always feel like, oh, these are your friends. You don't really need to get out of your circle. But that experience was an aha moment in my life. Like, you just never know. You have to live for yourself.
Yeah.
You have to start thinking about yourself first versus always trying to be something for somebody and then they just leave you high and dry.
Yeah.
And I think a girlfriend leaving you is definitely more intense than a guy leaving you. I'm going to tell you that. And yeah, so because of her, I am the person who I am. And I love it. I am, in a way, grateful that that happened. Very grateful that happened. Yeah.
It's so hard to look forward and see how something might impact you, but always looking back makes a perfect connection. And, you know, we've said it on the show before, something that, you know, is so cliche, but is always true, that it's because it's true, it's a cliche. Life is happening for you, not to you. And
absolutely,
the best decision we can make is to believe that we live in a friendly universe, one that's working for us, not one that's working against us. So Preeti, what's your question?
Okay. Well, there's this quote I live by, and I ask myself these questions, and I'm going to ask the next person this question. And the question is, did you live today fully? Did you love today fully? And did you serve today fully? And I ask myself these three questions before I hit the bed. And if the answer is yes for all three, that means I've lived a good day. Because every day is a gift. And I live by these three rules. And I would love to know if the next person feels the same way, if their answer was yes.
Yeah, no, that's good. We're going to have to prep them, Seema, that they get three questions coming at them, not just one.
It's a three-part question.
Yes.
Three-part,
yeah.
Good,
So
good. I love them.
Good.
They're great.
Yes. So also at the Happy and Human podcast, we believe generosity is key to success. We want to make an impact beyond what the listeners experience within the confines of our conversation. So as you know, we contribute to other nonprofit organizations that our guests are passionate about in an effort to make the world better, in order to spread awareness about other amazing things that people are doing. So Preeti, what's a nonprofit or a cause that you would like the Happy and Human podcast to make a small contribution towards?
Definitely to the children of Gaza. So that is one organization I definitely would love for you to contribute to. I contribute to it every week. And thank you so much for doing this. Like, this is such a beautiful way to give back to other charities. And not a lot of people do that. So thank you.
No, this is Dinesh's genius idea. I love it. So
yeah.
I don't want to take credit for it. It's, one way that we can serve, right? It's one way that we can use the gifts that we have to give it away, right? And I'm not saying this from an arrogant point of view that we have gifts or anything. I think everyone does. Everyone has the ability to help make life a little bit easier for someone else. And if we can do that. So, Preeti, you're just a inspiration. You're a breath of fresh air. Everything you're doing is, I'm a big fan. I know Seema's a big fan. So are the listeners of the podcast, because they're telling us that you're an amazing influence. Tell us, where can our audience find you if someone has never heard about you before and they're like, that Preeti person is someone I need in my life? Where can they find you? Tell us what's coming up for you and what you're excited about.
Absolutely. So come find me on Instagram, Preeti S. Gandhi. You'll find me. Come join the party, I would like to say. Yeah. My life is a party, and I love to share my energy with you, to show you how I annoy my teen kids, because that is always fun. Yeah. And the next big thing that is coming is I am going to launch some courses next year. That is my plan. I know it's been high in demand to come up with just a meal planning, meal prep course. I'm going to start that, and soon a subscription to my recipes. So you get healthy recipes in your inbox every week. So you can meal plan, meal prep, and, live a healthier life. And trust me, my recipes are very simple, very easy to do, because we don't have the luxury of time. Yeah. All right. We just don't. Nobody does. Everybody's busy. So why not make it simple, easy, doable, and delicious?